Hello, it's December the 15th, 2012. I've just come back from the cinema where I watched The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. And I'm going to make a prediction, which is that films are going to be made differently from now on. Directors are going to have to learn to use their cameras and so forth differently. The rules have been changed, and they've been changed by the introduction of 48 frames per second. Now, I have craved the introduction of a higher frame rate pretty much my whole life, at least as long as I can remember. Human eyes can actually discern about 50 new images a second, so 24 frames a second, which is the old frame rate, just didn't really cut it. And if you were sitting in a cinema, the animation was really horribly juddery and blurry and so forth. And if you're shooting particularly with a butterfly shutter at 2 images a second, every individual frame is a bit blurred as well, which is why if you ever see a still taken from a movie, it's usually a bit blurred and disappointing. Now, why are they going to have to change things? Well, because 48 frames a second doesn't just significantly improve the animation, it also significantly improves the clarity, because you've got half as much movement blur between shots. Everything looks twice as sharp. So when an actor picks up a prop, whatever it is, that prop, you see it so much more clearly. And at first, it looks wrong. A lot of the props I saw in that film looked wrong because I was seeing them so much more clearly than I normally see a prop that they just looked like, oh, that's just, he picks up a bag. Oh, that just looks like a bag. All they've done is just got a bag. This is like watching a school play. I mean, that's just a bag. It's not a movie bag. It's not a special effect bag. It's just a bag. I can see it's just So props are going to have to be made better from now on. You won't be able to get away with ropey props because the audience can see everything so much better. Makeup's going to have to improve as well. The dwarves look fine in this film, but it was actually characters like Bilbo Baggins. You see a big close-up of his face, and you can see that actor's wearing makeup. It's really quite embarrassingly obvious. I suppose the reaction to this is they'll just put less makeup on people, and that's probably a good thing. They'll look more real. But that's not the big change. The big change that I wasn't expecting was that I realised that camera moves and cutting are going to have to change. You're going to have to cut less, and you're going to have to do far less moving the camera about. It's just so much more jarring. When I was watching it, I kept feeling that I was almost not watching a film. It was a bit like watching a stage play. The actors were so much more real in front of me, so much more sharp and better animated, that they looked more solid, more believable, and I could believe that that's an actor sort of performing for me on a stage. So suddenly, if a cut happens, and I'm looking at a completely different actor who's somewhere else at a different angle, and the weather's changed and everything's just changed, that cut is so much more jarring that you've got to be very, very careful with cuts now. And I hated a lot of the camera moves in the film. They really broke the spell because they were so obviously fake. When the camera makes some movement that no human viewer would ever make in real life, it sort of crabs round to the side and then cranes up like this and then tilts down and swoops and does all this complicated stuff. It just looks so completely jarring. It was breaking the fourth wall. It was reminding me that I'm watching a film all the time. Never remind me that I'm watching a film if you can possibly avoid it. Directors are going to have to learn to use the camera differently in a way which suits 48 frames per second. When zoom lenses first came in, directors went, wow, we got this new tool, it's brilliant, look, you can zoom in, isn't it brilliant? We can zoom out, wow. And a lot of films in the early days of zoom lenses have these horrible naff zooms, and then after a while people learned, oh no, they don't work at all, let's stop doing that. You've really got to track in and track out. You can't just zoom. Well, you're going to have to move the camera a lot less. In fact, sometimes just lock the camera off at 48 frames a second and just let the actors perform in front of it. It's all right, we'll see them fine, even if they're a little bit further away, because everything's so much sharper and so much better animated that they'll still look fine. A bit like you're sitting in a seat at a theatre watching an actor perform on a stage. It's fine. If you're in the theatre and the actor's doing a good job and it's a good story, you'll be there. You'll be gripped by it all. Directors are going to have to learn to use the camera differently because at 48 frames a second, there's such a greater reality, an illusion of reality in front of you that if you keep jarringly cutting and making moves that are impossible and reminding the viewer that they're watching a movie, it'll be more and more jarring and more annoying. I think actually it's going to be a good thing. I hope they should make more movies this way, at 48 frames a second or even higher frame rates. And I hope that they can set actors a little bit freer as well. Perhaps, widen the lens a bit, let the actors perform in front of the camera a bit more, do their stuff a bit more. And perhaps the age of frantic cutting is going to end, because that can be really annoying.